Good morning, Sean and Milo. In the studio with me is MLA Doug Clovechok to give us a recap and fill us in on what is going on in Victoria. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Great to be here. Great to see Milo again.
What are some of the highlights and some of the lowlights, for that matter, of what we should be thinking about?
Well, in the riding itself, we've been very, very busy. Our constituency offices in Kimberley and here in Revelstoke, we're getting the emails and phone calls on a regular basis, and that's a good thing. I think people have discovered us, that we're here and we're helping people. Got to go back to Victoria on the 10th of February. So we're trying to make sure we get through the riding and hear from people and meet with them face to face. From a riding perspective, we've been very, very busy, and proportional representation is the biggest issue that we're going to be facing, and we're going to be fighting that tooth and claw, because for rural British Columbia, proportional representation does not work. It's the worst nightmare that we could ever face politically.
What are some of the realities of that actually being implemented?
In 05 and 09, we had referendums about, in 05, it was defeated, but not by a huge majority, but in 09 it was. I think British Columbians don't want this. In 05 and 09, it was 60 plus 1%. Now it's 50 plus 1%. I had put a motion in the House to make it a yes or no question, a motion to amend their bill. That was, of course, defeated. I knew that as soon as I put it forward, but it needs to be a yes or no question. British Columbians don't need to be tricked. We don't know what it's going to look like exactly, but there'll be multiple questions on it, looking at different kinds of proportional representation, different things, and then first past the post will be there too. But it's going to be confusing. So I think British Columbians deserve to have a straight yes or no answer. Do we want it or we don't want it? And that's not the way it's going to unfold. So we're going to be fighting that when we get back to Victoria.
So the BC Liberals are pretty quick to state what it is they don't like about proportional representation. How is it that they see it as a benefit to British Columbians from your perspective?
For proportional representation?
Yeah.
I don't believe that they do. I honestly, frankly, don't believe that they do. I've had sidebars with some of their caucus members, and many of them told me they don't want proportional representation. I don't believe that John Horgan wants proportional representation, but it's a way to placate the supply agreement with the Greens. That's what they want, because they will get more seats in the legislature based upon the percentage of votes that they get. So I don't believe the NDP actually want this.
Are you thinking that this is really one of the biggest challenges as of right now?
Top of shelf right now. If you look all across the world, whoever has proportional representation, it doesn't work. Germany is in a jackpot right now because of it. New Zealand has a far right-wing party that has come into power, and you open the door for those extreme left and extreme right parties to actually have seats and hold seats. You could have the Nazi Party of Canada sitting in the legislature of British Columbia if they got percentage votes, whatever that ceiling is. So Canadians, we fought and bled for the system that we had. It's the best system in the world. To have something politically motivated to change our system, I just find that offensive.
You guys have an election coming up for your next Liberal leader.
You bet.
Now, you have stated that you are in support of Andrew Wilkinson. As you're getting very close to this, are you still in support of Andrew, and is that the individual that you're going to be backing up?
The candidates that we have for our leader are outstanding. They all are really, really strong, and that's a nice problem to have. That said, I am supporting Andrew Wilkinson. There's no question. I was on his team right from the very beginning. I did my due diligence. I talked to all of the candidates, sat down, either had lunch or dinner with them, asked them the same questions, and Andrew came out on top by far in terms of not only his ability, but his ability to connect with British Columbians. And I hope he's successful, because I think he's going to be a great leader. He's got a vision. We need that.
When you're down in Victoria, you're kind of like the little brother that's trying to throw the rock over top of the shed, and it's not quite making it.
That's a good analogy.
But there's a lot of things that are going on. What are a few things that you would say that have been moving in a positive way, that have been progressive, and you think that overall some of the decisions that the NDP made up will benefit British Columbians?
Site C. I know that there was a lot of objection on multiple fronts around Site C. John Horgan and the NDP before Christmas, as you know, and approved that project, which I believe is the right decision. So I compliment them. It wasn't an easy decision for them to make. I know that they've alienated a lot of their base because of that. There's a lot of people that vote NDP and bleed NDP who aren't real happy. So that was a big move on their part, and I congratulate them for that, because it's important for British Columbians. There's going to be hundreds and hundreds of jobs. That's one of the things I would have to say. That's something I would compliment them on.
Is there anything coming up in the next, call it 6 months, that you think is going to be the next thing on the burner? Maybe it's just behind the proportional representation.
Well, the thing that comes to mind immediately is the budget. Tabling the budget in February. We're back in session. The throne speech is on February the 11th. I believe they're going to table their budget on February the 20th. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that that's the date. So we're really interested. I'm really interested to see around the Trans-Canada Highway during estimates when you can actually challenge the Premier on his budgets. I was able to talk to him about Three Valley Gap, the Trans-Canada Highway, the conservation officer issue here in Revelstoke. During estimates said that Trans-Canada Highways is their priority. They want to expedite and accelerate, which are action words. Their timelines are our timelines that we had in the last government. So maybe a little bit status quo on that. But the budget is going to be the number one thing that we're going to look at. They also promised a balanced budget. So we're going to see how that looks. And, to balance budgets isn't easy. What suffered, what had to go to make the budget balanced. So we're going to be really drilling down into that. And that's going to be our key, I think, role for February and March.
The next time that you talk to our Premier, can you remind him that he did receive a letter from the Smith family about the rock that came flying off and smashed Shannon's car? If something happens down the line to someone else, the amount of rhetoric that's going to come out of this town towards anyone that's in power at that point, saying, this was brought to your attention for years. This letter was brought to your attention, directly to your attention. This person's very lucky. Hopefully it never happens, but if something does happen to someone down the line and it's very similar in cause, people in Revelstoke are gonna lose it. I've had enough.
And well, they should. And I spoke with Shannon directly on the phone, and we talked about it the day after that it had happened. Certainly, I was so grateful and thankful that she wasn't seriously injured, because it potentially could have killed her. In estimates, I brought that to the attention of the Premier. John Horgan specifically mentioned, with her permission, her name and the situation. As recently as last week, we met with the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. One of the questions that I had specifically was on the Three Valley Gap. And what they've assured me, assured in quotes, is that it's top of mind for them at Three Valley Gap. They're looking at some new kind of a steel meshing that they're going to try to keep these rocks from falling off. To your point, I'm going to continually bring these issues up in Victoria on behalf of the people, not only in Revelstoke, but all the way down to Kimberley. It's got to change, because somebody eventually is not going to beat the odds, and they're going to get hurt or maybe even killed. And you're right, Revelstokians should be upset.
Well, you keep on them for us, because I heard a quote from a Dennis Hopper movie where he says, rust never sleeps.
Very good point. So we're going to keep on fighting for you, and that's my job.
Well, thanks for coming in, Doug, and filling us in on what is going on in our area, BC.
Yeah, look forward to coming back. Thanks, Sean.